Hello again. Good to see you. Um, I've got some really fascinating stuff for you today. Um, I mentioned fear in the past couple of videos, and part of it is getting out of fear. And uh, what is fear? And then why is it so hard to get away from it? So that's really uh, what I want to cover today. In a nutshell, it's hard to quite uh, say what it is, but let me just dive in. Okay, we've already got going. Anyway, like I mentioned, fear. I was looking at it, and it's it has a lot to do with where you place your attention. So if you're focused on what, and I was using the political upheaval that's occurring right now, and the things that the scoundrels that are in the news that are just putting up all kinds of things. And so I've been experiencing this with loved ones, and they're very much into looking at the media and then coming up with an immediate reaction. And um, for me, I would say it's there's some subtleties here that we've got to consider, and part of this is that um, I try. Excuse me, if things are moving around, it's because we have somebody here who is getting all lovey with the camera stand. It's like rubbing her head against the tripod. So sorry about that. This one is, we have two of these little black ones. This one is Booga. I didn't name them, but I rescued them with the names Ooga and Booga. And the way I can tell them apart is Booga has this little tiny kink at the end of her tail. And Booga also is a little bit more forward. And so she is like, hey, are you talking and you're not talking to me? Well, then let's change that. Do you see a little kink in her tail? You can see it every now and then. It has to be a certain direction. Anyway, sorry, distraction. So, fear. Back to fear. I don't spend as much time on the media. Um, I hear what comes through, and I hear it through filters. And so, to me, I just put it in place. Um, but I have seen when I get maybe more involved in what's happening, or what the media is saying, and I get into the the media world. And so here is my example of the fear. So here's fear, and when I'm looking at it full on, it's quite the block, isn't it? But then I look at it from the perspective of me, rather than projecting me onto the fear. I look at it from the perspective of me, an infinite creator among myself, and knowing that what I create doesn't have anything to do with what they are creating. Now, what they are creating may have some influence on what I'm doing, but it can be that much influence, right? So it's a big difference. It's a perspective. Um, and that's what I meant by when I see fear is 2D, is as a screen, it can come, just cover your consciousness, cover your awareness. Your fear is big and it's in your face. When you come step away from the fear, and that's a trick, because you can't really just step away. Booga is causing issues. Okay, Booga, are we gonna have to put you outside? Anyway, she is all full of love right now. She's purring and she's rubbing against everything. And so don't know what we're going to do. We're going to try to proceed. uh, so anyway, the fear, when it's encompassing, it's so hard to look away from. It really is. It's okay. She's coming back. She's made her lap. She's knocked over everything on the desk, and now she's back. And there she goes. Sorry. Good old Booga. So when it's right there and we're giving our full attention, that is reality. I just created reality by looking at it. Now, when I look at what I feel I want, or what I want, or what I'm doing, I give that reality. So say I pour my attention into my practice and my polyvagal breathwork mindfulness practice, and I see it growing and expanding. That's where all the consciousness that surrounds this little point is focused in. It's not focused on the fear, on what's out there that those people are saying are real. If I pour my consciousness into that with my attention, yes, it will become very real, and it will become very real for me. If I pour my attention into, say, my practice, for example, then this other stuff that's out there becomes much smaller. It becomes far less of its dimension recedes. When it's this way, it's got a lot of dimension in my reality, right? When it begins to recede, it has very little dimension, has very little influence on where I'm going. It can still be there, but it's not the full-on reality block that it can be if I'm focused only on that. So why is it so hard to turn our attention away? Well, it's by lack of practice and lack of ability to focus. So let's work on focusing. So I've given you several exercises over the past several videos for ventral vagal toning. Vagal toning helps to, it's working out the muscles of this autonomic nervous system. For perhaps our whole lives, our autonomic nervous system has been by default in maybe a minor to a much larger degree of sympathetic, and that is the fight or flight or the reactionary mode, and that's where we are kind of conditioned through our entire lives. So we interact with our world less on a observe and respond, and more on a judge and react, or sometimes simply just react. And so these exercises, these vagal toning exercises, help to recalibrate our autonomic nervous system, moving it from reactionary mode to observe and respond mode. So, but it's like building a real muscle, okay? This pathway has been firing in our sympathetic nervous system for our whole lives, so it's got muscle, it's got strength. Now, our ventral vagal, our parasympathetic, our safety, relax, it's okay, move forward, me time, autonomic nervous system or muscle has been underused, it's atrophied. And so we're doing these toning exercises that I've shown you to help to build up and strengthen this ventral vagal or the parasympathetic. So again, we're going to work on those. So I would suggest this one. You can look back at my previous video, and I believe it's being the U of you, and the one before that, which was had fear in the title. And we went through this exercise, and really this is a vagal toning exercise. This is pushing the hands together while holding the breath after an exhale, and then working with our peripheral vision, really kind of opening up our the ocular nerve, or the vagus nerve pokes out behind the eyeballs, and when you really exercise your eyes, you help to release some of the tension of the parasympathetic nerve that goes past there. So we're using tongue to the roof of the mouth and activating that the behind the eyes. So anyway, I'm 11 minutes into it, and I would love to give you an exercise specific for coming into your own self and focusing. But I would suggest doing those toning exercises first. Okay, this one. If you're in a particularly high stress, high anxiety mode, you can look way back where I did these exercises. And this is, you place your hand over the top of your head and you tilt your head down. You pull. This is a wonderful stretch for this vagus nerve. Now you can let this opposite arm drop that shoulder down and away from the ear, or you can bring it across and actually create an S. And then while you're doing this, look up with the eyes as hard as you possibly can for a full 30 seconds minimum. And then, of course, we have to mirror by doing the other side. And this whole time, mouth is closed. We're breathing in and out only through the nose. Tongue is at the roof of the mouth. And this is a wonderful release. Oh, another thing we got to be aware of on that one, and I might have been doing it, is when you shift your eyes, your head wants to go with your eyes, because your ocular nerve and this parasympathetic, or this vagus nerve, all are connected. And so when your eyes go there, your neck wants to turn. So try to keep your nose pointing forward when you're doing. Let's see if I can do it. All right, not as easy as it sounds. Close the mouth, tongue to the roof of the mouth, and in and out through the nose. Longer exhale than inhale. Twice as long as is your inhale if possible. So do the release if you're in a very high state of nervousness, okay? If you need to do the release, this is optional, or it can help. So just see where you're at, and then you do that one, and then maybe 10 rounds of the humming. And that's just setting us up for our focusing exercise. Why are we doing all these other things, right? Your meditation classes, okay, sit down. This was my old teacher, was close your eyes, follow your breath. And that was it, right? That was meditation. And the body is still in fight or flight. And I realized, oh my gosh, you know what? If we get the body out of fight or flight and calmed down simply by doing these functions beforehand, when I close my eyes and follow my breath, guess what? I can close my eyes and follow my breath. And that monkey mind is not just creating havoc with the jungle gym inside the head. Okay. Did you get the little thing there? Funky jungle gym. Okay. Finally, let's get to the focusing exercise. So after all of this, we close our eyes and we bring our awareness in with the breath. I like to come into the solar plexus. Right now is very important that we spend a lot of time developing our awareness of the solar plexus, which is also, early on in meditation, it's finding your personal power. We're so used to putting our power with our attention to what's out there on this screen of the world and giving that all of our attention, which is what? Our power. When we bring our attention in, we bring it in here, and the world is as it can be. Doesn't have a lot of effect because my attention is here. That might be in the peripheral, but it's not commanding the entire attention, right? So, fascinating. Bring our attention here with our breath, and this is after vagal toning, after vagal release, after 10 rounds of humming, and then close the eyes and bring your awareness in. Keep your awareness here in the solar plexus even as you exhale. And this is really just learning to focus. But as we learn to focus, what we do is we discover that when we are focusing, we are moving the point of our consciousness. And so when I focus here, the subtle seed of awareness is that it's this ability to focus that moves my consciousness, that moves my awareness to this place. And then I become in awareness that I am this presence. And that when I move my focus, I'm moving the very being that I am. Okay? As I become more and more practiced at this awareness, this presence that I find that I can move with my focus, takes on its true stature, which is, this is the me before this body-mind ever came into being. And that this presence that I can move with my focus is the me that is me, okay? And in this body, I notice, follows. And the mind eventually follows this awareness, this presence. And the presence itself becomes that first point of my focus, rather than the thoughts that are going on in the head that oftentimes, by default, just run over and look at what is out there. So when I become in awareness, whatever's out there doesn't really go away. It's part of the combined agreements of our humanity, but it becomes very peripheral. And this becomes my focus. And then the rest of this one that I call Mitch, can have a much more impact in the world because I'm using all of me. And all of me includes this body, this mind, but this awareness, this presence. And if you're aware at all of quantum physics, you know that 99% of anything that we see as solid is not solid. So 99% of me is in this non-physical realm, which can be awareness and can have the ability to attract anything that's out there into physicality, simply because the preponderance of my attention is on the 99%, and the 1% is this physical portion. So the physical portion of all that's out there is so tiny, but it can be so pervasive, especially when we put our mind, which is the creative portion, 100% focused on whatever it is that's out there, and it just seems to block us. Okay, so that's what I have for you today. To me, this is like the most exciting thing in the world. I hope you got it, and if you did, let me know in the comments. If you have some questions, let me know in the comments. Okay, thank you so much for watching, and we will talk again soon. Bye-bye.